On the negative side, the Miami Hurricanes missed a lot of plays against the Florida Gators. On the positive side, the Miami Hurricanes missed a lot of plays against the Florida Gators. They still won by a blowout. So, how much better can this team and this starting quarterback get?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer at CanesCounty at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I can't wait to see the Canes on the field again. Home opener this Saturday, 6 p.m. against Florida A&M. On this loaded episode of Locked On Canes, we are going to talk about, because I have started to take the deep dive into FAMU, what Miami can expect from the Rattlers this weekend. Let's talk about the next true freshman who can break out and break through, because only a handful got playing time on offense and defense this week. We're going to talk about Cam Ward and his ceiling in Miami's offense. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So Cam Ward talked a little bit about the hype, and yeah, he's now a co-favorite at this moment for the Heisman Trophy. He's taken a lot of national honors this week, and he said about Miami, we have to be who we are. He says, we know what we're capable of the amount of preparation we put in. Just personally for myself, he said, I was the same player I was at Washington State, making plays inside the pocket, outside the pocket. It's crazy. Come into a new situation in a bigger market and everything can change, he said. It's not going to change for me, Ward said. I'm going to always be who I am, put myself and the team in the best situation to try and be successful. So I appreciate the fact that Ward is staying humble and focused amidst all the hype. Let's bring out our guest for this episode. I mentioned I'm now doing some writing at CanesCounty.com, which is the Miami Rivals affiliate, and I'm more than happy to do that. And this man is the publisher at CanesCounty. Marcus Benjamin is with us. So, Marcus, I'd love to know, and I'm sure you've watched the game probably back a couple of times by now. We'll start with the headline maker, Cam Ward at quarterback. What stood out to you most about his performance at Florida?
Well, first off, just the fact that he exceeded expectations. There's a ton of hype going into the game, going into the season surrounding Cam Ward. Obviously, this was a player that was thinking about going to the NFL. So he was, a talented player, of course, but many just kind of wanted to see what he could do for the Miami Hurricanes. So many times, Donno, we go into the season thinking, okay, well, this is the year that Miami comes back to relevance and to prominence and is going to be among the elite of college football. But I think everybody was like, well, let's wait and see. And see, we did with Cam Ward. I mean, this guy has tremendous poise. I feel like he kind of plays in slow motion. Like everyone is kind of playing, fast, and he is just like playing slow motion out there. What I mean by that is like the game seems very slow for him, where he is kind of able to see things that normal quarterbacks will probably see at a fast pace. He sees it at a slow pace, and just his presence in the pocket, always with his head up, looking to throw the ball downfield or get extra yardage. It was something that we were missing from last season, Donno, as you know, with last year's quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke. Van Dyke rarely would run for first downs or run out of the pocket and buy time. And Cam Ward is kind of the opposite of that. I mean, it's almost like you're playing NCAA football, where you're just kind of running around in the pocket and looking to make plays. So that, to me, was kind of the most impressive from him on the field. But then now off the field, he's showing you how impressive of a young man he is, because he doesn't let the hype of this one game really kind of, make him, I guess, egotistical. He's definitely focused on the game-by-game mentality, said that there were a lot of plays left on the field, that they can get a lot better. and that they should celebrate this win, but there's a lot of work to do. So you kind of like to kind of see that, because with big games, big wins over your rival, you may kind of let down your guard a little bit in the next game or the next upcoming games that may be not as tough, not tough environments. So definitely nice to kind of hear that from the Miami signal caller, that they left a lot of meat on the bone in that Florida game.
How do we, as people who cover the team and even fans of the team, like, how do we kind of stay even keel? Like, I know the players. We'll talk about how the players are doing it, because before that Florida game, Marcus, I kept hearing about how, hey, Florida's a lot better this year, and Graham Mertz is going to take an even bigger step forward in his second year as a Gator, and the Swamp is an impossible place to win. Like, I kept hearing that stuff before the game, and then after the game, now I'm hearing, well, okay, Florida was terrible all along, complete disarray. They've got to fire that coach. Like, it's the 180 on the Florida side was noticeable. And yeah, I'm not saying people aren't praising Miami, but I'm just wondering, are we kind of overhyping Miami? I mean, how much of that was Miami going out there and looking great versus, Florida maybe not being what they thought they were going to be this year?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the score is definitely indicative of where the two programs are going as far as trajectory is concerned. I think if this was a close game, then Miami might be a little bit more concerned, and Florida may be feeling a little bit better by themselves. But the margin of victory, I think, is really telling, and I think it probably could have even been worse.
Yes.
If Cam Ward doesn't throw that one interception in their own territory, and Miami doesn't give up that one huge 71-yard rushing touchdown, then Florida may only have one garbage touchdown in this game by the freshman DJ Lagway when he came in relief of Graham Mertz. I see that he's now getting the start this week with Mertz getting a concussion. But yeah, I think it could have been worse. They had a missed field goal as well, so the points could have been even worse. They could have put 50 points on the Gators, if it wasn't for those, 3 mistakes that I mentioned. So I think you should be hyped up about the Hurricanes if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, just because you went into a hostile environment in the first game. And it's the first game. I think that needs to be emphasized a bit more, because, you can only improve from that first game. The first game, you really there's a ton of new players on this team, as you know, Donno. So you're expecting some rust, or some, inconsistencies. And you really didn't see a lot of that. I mean, even when it comes to penalties, even when it comes to just mistakes overall, they kept that to a minimum. And I expect that to improve week to week. Now, Florida, let's just be honest. It is a dumpster fire over there in Gainesville. And I believe Billy Napier's days are numbered as a head coach. But still, the simple fact that, they went in there and they took care of business, that it's not like they limped to this win. They steamrolled the Gators. So I think fans should be very excited about this team. I do believe they're a playoff team. I do believe they're a top 12 team, in which they are ranked now in the AP. So good things ahead for the Hurricanes and the Hurricanes fans.
Indeed, and good things ahead on this episode, because we have a lot more to get to, including we will start to turn the page onto Florida A&M, which is Miami's next, and actually probably the best team in Tallahassee right now, for being real. I mean, 2-0 FAMU Rattlers are coming to town on Saturday. I do want to talk about, because a lot of folks are asking me about, because only a handful of true freshmen got offensive and defensive snaps in this game. Who are the next guys who can step up and break through this coming season? And I've got to ask Marcus when we come back, because he does an awesome job covering recruiting, the impact of that victory on Miami's recruiting, because we already had a Florida verbal commit was on Miami's campus earlier this week. You want to keep it locked right here. We're nowhere near done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I'm only getting started with FanDuel. NFL season tonight and on Sunday and on Monday. This is what a time to be alive, in addition to all the college football action going on right now. And yeah, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel here on Locked On Canes, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you, because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, FanDuel has something special for our listeners this weekend. Be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all Sunday, September 8th pregame money line bets. Sorry, that was a mouthful. Profit Boost will be live starting Friday, 9/6. That's tomorrow. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure to check out Locked On ACC. I also co-host that show every single day with Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack, and we will be talking a little bit. We've talked a lot about Miami these past few days. We'll be talking a little bit more about Kenton's Wolfpack because they've got a big game against the Tennessee Volunteers this coming Saturday. That's definitely one to look out for in the ACC. So make Locked On ACC your next listen. We have publisher Marcus Benjamin, publisher of Miami's rival site, CanesCounty, is now with us. So, all right, Marcus, this is something I hadn't even talked about this yet on Locked On Canes because this report came out after I did my most recent episode that you had a Florida Gators verbal commit West Broward 4-star receiver Joshua Moore on Miami's campus, according to Steve Wiltfong on Monday, and others have confirmed that report. So the Hurricanes are already working. Gators verbal commits, I'm sure some Seminoles verbal commits. Mario Cristobal does not sleep when it comes to recruiting. So in your mind, Marcus, and we saw Miami players going by the Florida recruiting sector. There was even a Florida recruit, that was on a Florida visit. He's throwing up the U out there. I mean, how impactful was that win on the recruiting scene?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think Miami needs to credit the recruiting staff of Florida of just kind of placing them where Miami goes in to their tunnel or goes into their locker room, because I think that is going to have a huge impact because those recruits felt the energy from the players and that they felt the passion from the players. Obviously, they saw, the butt whooping on the field, which was, inspiring in itself. But just for them to kind of feel the energy when they're coming off the field, many players saying, come to Miami, come to the U, that type of thing, I think is great for recruiting. I mean, as far as the recruits are concerned that were there, DJ Pickett, the 5-star who's committed to LSU. Now, Florida didn't make Pickett's top last 3 or his final 3, but obviously he's close to in proximity to where he goes to school at Zephyr Hills to Florida. So easy trip for him there, but he got to witness Miami firsthand or the beginning of this 2024 campaign. So I think that's definitely a player that Miami should monitor kind of going forward here. And then, as you mentioned, Josh Moore, he is a player that I spoke to right before the season started, and he mentioned that what these teams kind of do on the field, and these teams as in the big 3, all obviously he's committed to Florida, but Florida State also pushing for Josh Moore as well, is that he wants to see what these teams do on the field. Like, that is a factor for him. So from what he saw on the field, I think, can only bode well for the Miami Hurricanes. And you mentioned, of course, that he was on campus this week. So I think Miami is in a really good spot to possibly flip him. He remains committed to the Gators for now, but, Miami only has 1 wide receiver in their 2025 class. So I know that they do want to have at least 3, maybe even 4 wide receivers in this class before it's all said and done. There's a couple receivers that will be visiting this weekend. Make sure you visit CanesCounty.com for that full visitors list and my thoughts on the visitors as well. So they are in the market for receivers. So definitely look out for Josh Moore to be a possibility. Another receiver that I got a chance to see in that recruiting area was Florida commit Vernell Brown, who I think, to me, is probably the most talented receiver overall in this 2025 class. He's just an absolutely dynamic athlete, and he got to witness, Florida, being trounced on in the swamp. So I think it's going to give him a lot to think about. He took an official visit with Miami in June, along with Jamie French. They're both South Florida Express teammates, which, Miami has definitely has relationships with that squad. So I think Miami did well in just their performance, their celebration afterwards. And now, they're on the phone really trying to see what they can do to flip some of those talents from Florida. Shout out to the Florida's recruiting staff as well for their placement of those guys.
Yeah, and that one staffer who was like, she was like putting hands on people, like trying to get them like, get out of here. Like that was a little overly aggressive, but
yeah.
I
But I kind of understood it though. I was just,
Yeah.
if I were her, I might put my hands on those guys as well to kind of keep them away, because it was too bad, and it seemed like it was going to get worse if they just chum it up on the sideline with them.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, the true freshmen who were recruits in the previous cycle, 2024 cycle, I think a handful of them, well, probably more than a handful, are going to have an impact on this season. We already saw a handful get playing time. And one of the questions that I answered in my my mailbag at CanesCounty earlier today was at someone who I think was hoping to see a few more of the true freshmen. But to me, it's like rivalry game. I can understand why Cristobal was relying mostly on experienced players, but we did have, I counted 5 true freshmen who got offensive and defensive snaps in the game. Justin Scott, OJ Frederique in the defensive backfield got the most. He had 29 snaps. Justin Scott, I think, had 9 snaps. Jordan Lyle had 6 snaps. Elija Lofton, I think, had something around 9. Nino Francavilla got a couple, I think, late in the game. So I counted 5, but we're going to see more, Marcus. In fact, we'll probably see a lot more this weekend against FAMU. So who do you think, out of some of the true freshmen who haven't played yet, which ones do you think can really put their stamp on the season?
Yeah, well, when you look at freshmen that are going to get playing time, you kind of look at special teams, right? Because sometimes a lot of freshmen will get some playing time in special teams. And in games like, FAMU and the next one afterwards, Ball State as well, I expect a similar type of result where a lot of young players do get a lot of playing time. You'll see those freshmen get playing time on special teams. And you saw Popo Aguirre out there on special teams, so I expect him to get a lot of snaps this Saturday. Of course, you saw Cam Pruitt out there on special teams as well. He registered double-digit special team snaps, so I definitely expect him to see the field a lot in these next couple of games. And I think the guys that did play, I think you're going to expect to see a lot of those guys, certainly. I think the biggest, there's 2 big surprises. I think they're 2 obvious ones is OJ Frederique, obviously, him starting. I mean, this is a kid that I've always loved in high school. I always thought he was long, athletic. At St. Thomas, he played both sides of the ball, receiver and defensive back. So when you're playing both sides of the ball at a program like St. Thomas Aquinas, which is arguably the best in the entire state, you're getting a prime time athlete here. But what I'm most impressed with really is just how the players just say how mature he is, just for his age. And, Jaden Harris said this week that he could be a freshman All-American. So really excited to really kind of see him and what he can do, especially with Damari Brown, who likely is going to miss some time here due to injury. So I think you're going to see a lot more of OJ Frederique and Jordan Lyle. I mean, another guy from St. Thomas Aquinas as well. I thought he was the best running back in all of Florida for the last cycle. So I'm not surprised one bit that he got playing time. And I'm a little bit surprised that he got some playing time over AJ Allen. The fact that AJ Allen, who got significant snaps last year and had some highlight plays last year, remember that one play where he leaped over a guy, I believe it was the Texas A&M game. He had the game-winning touchdown against Clemson. So I expected AJ Allen to really kind of, get some carries here. I'm not sure if it's an injury concern or not. But the fact that the freshman, Jordan Lyle, it just kind of jumped over on AJ Allen, who is now going into his third year, it really says a lot about, the talent that he has and the belief that this coaching staff has in him. And I think he can be like that every down type of back because he can catch the football well. He's really a patient runner, and he's explosive as well. Once he gets into the open field, he's one of those type of running backs that can take it the distance. So those are the freshmen that I'm truly impressed with. One more name I do want to mention is Zaquan Patterson. I saw him in kick return as well. I think he may get a lot of playing time in these next couple of games, especially on special teams. He's a dynamic special teams player coming out of Chaminade Madonna. I felt like he had, double-digit pump blocks in his whole career. It seems like every game he was making a pump block or some major play on special teams. So watch out for Zaquan Patterson as well, the freshman out of Chaminade, to make some impact on defense and special teams this season.
A couple of other names I'll throw at you, and they happen to play on arguably the deepest position group on the team, but Marquise Lightfoot and Cole McConathy. I mean, I would expect these next couple of games they're going to get some playing time, and then I wonder if guys like that can maybe carve out spots in the rotation in the future.
Yeah, I would think so. Just because Ruben Bain gave Cole McConathy a lot of praise, basically saying he's one of the guys that's standing out to him. He's living up to the 44 that Ruben Bain wore last year. So I think Bain feels like he's living up to the jersey number, and I think he can definitely make an impact in this next game. I expect him to wreak some havoc on the, in the backfield. And also Marquise Lightfoot as well. We saw what he did in the spring. You can arguably say he was maybe the most valuable player of that spring game on the defensive side, just because of the amount of plays that he did make. So I expect him to really, he didn't register any snaps on defense in this last game, but I definitely expect him to play a ton in this next game. And then maybe towards the end of the Ball State game, if it's a comfortable lead. I think those guys can really make an impact. I think Justin Scott is going to legitimately be in this rotation on the defensive line. I think a talent like that, 5-star, I think you can ill afford to really not play him, especially in a game like Florida A&M or Ball State. So I expect him to get plenty of playing time as well. Hear a lot of great things from the staff, from him. So he should see the field playing here in 2024.
Well, when we come back, I want to talk about what the objectives for Miami against Florida A&M this weekend, what we'd like to see Miami accomplish, and also I've taken some deep dives on the Rattlers earlier today. There's a very familiar face playing on that team that Miami fans will remember from a couple of years ago. So, my friends, we're only getting started. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I'm only getting started with LinkedIn. Folks, what a valuable tool this is for small business owners. My goodness, when you're hiring, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I've heard a rumor that Billy Napier has started to redo his LinkedIn profile with the tag open to work on the bottom. He's going to need that pretty soon. You want to check this out, guys. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Guys, by the way, I want to shout out the t-shirt that I'm wearing. So these are actually, if you find Lorraine on social media, who's, any Miami fan knows who Lorraine is. She's helping sell these shirts. We bring the smoke. These are made by Reuben Bain's father. Reuben Bain Sr. makes these shirts, and when you buy one, proceeds on these shirts actually go to paying NIL deals to players who don't have NIL deals, because not every football player, every student athlete at Miami currently has NIL deals. So I think it's really cool that Reuben Bain Sr. is helping benefit those athletes with these T-shirts. So make sure you check these out. And by the way, I mean, it's awesome. I'm making a shirt that comes from the Bain family, and there's some really great people, and I'm proud to rep that today on the show. We got Marcus Benjamin with us, publisher at CanesCounty.com. That's the Miami Rivals affiliate. So, Marcus, I knew this guy was on the Rattlers now. Maybe some fans didn't, but Thad Franklin, remember, former Miami running back from a couple of years ago. Not only is he on the Rattlers, Thad is one of the focal points of that offense. He's caught touchdown passes out of the backfield in each of their first 2 games. And listen, this is obviously a game that Miami should win, and should win with relative ease if we're just talking about how the score is going to play out. But I don't know if this is like the sort of FAMU that we're used to sometimes playing this team over the years, because with the transfer portal, it's allowed a team like Florida A&M to have a lot of former Division I players on their team, even some guys who have played in Power 4 like Franklin and some others. Their quarterback, Daniel Richardson, used to be on FAU, and he's someone who can make some plays with his legs as well. So, you look at this game coming up with FAMU, what would you say are the big objectives for Miami this Saturday?
Yeah, I think they just need to concentrate on playing mistake-free football, because the difference between the FCS level and FBS, to me, is really in the trenches. I think the talent as far as the skill guys are, I think, very close. I think closer than most people really think, because, you mentioned, that there are a lot of familiar faces on this team from South Florida, and a lot of players that I've covered in high school. Thad Franklin, is obviously a guy who dominated basically for 4 years in high school at Chaminade Madonna, sometimes playing quarterback. I mean, this guy, and he was also a basketball player as well. He's just a really athletic guy who hasn't really kind of shown yet just how great he was in high school. So I know he's playing with a huge chip on his shoulder. Playing in this game. If you remember, there was a little controversy as to kind of why he left the program, how he left the program. So I know he wants to prove to a lot of the hometown fans that, maybe Miami made a mistake, or, that maybe he should have still be a Miami Hurricane at this point. So I'm really interested to kind of see just how hard he runs. He's going to be running with authority, man. He's going to be running with a lot of juice. So I expect him to run hard. But will he be able to run through any holes? It is the thing, because we all know, or it's been well documented, that Miami's pretty strong up front in the entire country. They got one of the best defensive lines in the entire country, let alone just the ACC. So it's hard for me to imagine that this offense will really start to get going against that defensive front. Just because, this is a front that basically dominated Florida. I mean, that's an SEC school. Say what you want about the Gators, but they're still an SEC program with a ton of 4-star or blue chip guys all over that roster. And Miami's was able to handle them pretty easily. I mean, they held Graham Mertz to under 100 yards passing, which is kind of unheard of nowadays in college football. So it's hard to imagine guys like Daniel Richardson, another guy that, quarterback for FAMU. This is a guy who set records here in Dade County for Miami Carroll City for a really good program when he played here. And he's been a bit of a journeyman. He started out at Central Florida, went to FAU, but passed for nearly 2,000 yards in like 3 straight years. So he's still, very talented. And that was obviously on the FBS level. So this guy is a very talented guy, can get out of the pocket and make plays. So I expect him to play with a chip on his shoulder as well, because he's one of those quarterbacks that wasn't recruited, by Miami. Like a lot of undersized quarterbacks here in Miami. I'm not sure why we have a ton of undersized quarterbacks coming out of South Florida, but he was definitely one of them, although he just kind of lit it up statistically down here. And then you got players like Corey Collier, who was once thinking about Miami as well, chose the Gators. And then Quan Lee also thinking about Miami, and chose elsewhere out of Gainesville. So I think that there's a lot of players that are coming back to South Florida, or and really wanting to kind of prove that they are elite, or still elite, from their high school days. And but from top to bottom, this is a mismatch. Let's call it what it is. I expect Miami to be up pretty big in this game by halftime. But like I said, it's not because of the skill guys, because I just named a bunch of skill guys that can play for a bunch of teams on the FBS level. I just think in the trenches, Miami has the significant advantage on the offensive line and the defensive line.
Yeah, I like what you said about playing mistake-free. I mean, obviously, the first objective, which goes without saying, is to try to get out of the game injury-free.
Sure.
But as far as what you can control, playing mistake-free is the thing for me, because just based on the line of scrimmages, like Miami should be able just to line up and dominate the game. I saw Florida A&M has been gashed on the ground by lesser opponents. Like Norfolk State didn't have much trouble putting up rushing yards against them, so Miami obviously shouldn't, but playing mistake-free, executing well, and mistake-free at the skill positions, keeping the penalties down. This is the type of stuff I want to see from Miami. Huge shout-out to Mark. If you got anything else you want to shout out, Marcus, go ahead. But he does an awesome job at CanesCounty.com.
Yeah, I just kind of want to say that Cam Ward, we all know he's a gunslinger. This is the game you don't really need to be. Cam Ward really doesn't need to be a gunslinger here. He can check down. He can be check down Cam in this game, and I think Miami still probably wins by 55 or so. Because I think if you throw a Restrepo or even a Ray in the flat, I think that they'll have the opportunity to really kind of take the distance. I think if he, I don't think he's going to stop that gunslinger mentality. I mean, by any stretch. But I just think this is a game where you don't really need to be. You don't really need to play that backyard football like you did against Florida to try to make plays. I think if he just kind of takes what the defense gives him, I'm pretty sure he's going to take his deep shots. You can, of course, take a couple, especially in the home opener. The home fans kind of want to see some electric, explosive plays. But for the most part, I think they can really just play conservative in this game, and they should come out with a pretty comfortable victory. I'm also very excited to see the backup quarterback situation. Just to see, Reese Poffenbarger. We saw him for one series in the last game, but, we really didn't see much from him. And also want to see how Emory Williams is after his, injury in that Florida State game. Want to see him, be productive, make plays, make throws in this game against FAMU.
I like it. And by the way, Marcus, let people know, because they can get a free trial at CanesCounty.com if they sign up today.
Yeah, absolutely. Use the promo code Miami30 for the first 30 days for free at Miami.rivals.com, also CanesCounty.com. Definitely have a lot of information when it comes to recruiting, and also premium content from my guy, Alex Donno. We got a mailbag on the website right now where fans can ask questions, and, Donno answers, your questions, and as well as an After the Storm feature that we'll have from him every game. You can check out his first edition on CanesCounty.com.
Yeah, and I hope this week so many different players get in the game that, like, my After the Storm, I'm like writing about 80 different guys. Like, I want to see, I think 50 some got offensive and defensive snaps last week against Florida. I'm hoping that number's in the 80s, if not higher, this week. Thank you so much, Marcus Benjamin. Follow him on X at Benjamin Rivals. Awesome job there. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Larry Bluestein's going to join us tomorrow, because Blue needed to come on for some redemption. So Larry Bluestein last week, he picked Florida to beat Miami.
He did.
And my viewers and listeners haven't forgotten. So I want to give Blue the floor tomorrow. We'll talk to you guys then on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.